There's a crisis facing men over 50 that almost nobody talks about. And it's not retirement. It is not testosterone. It is not getting older. It is not even money. The most dangerous crisis facing many men over 50 is this. They no longer know who they are when the roles they spent their lives performing begin to change. And the dangerous part is that from the outside, everything looks fine. He may still have a job. He may have a wife, children, a home, a pension, maybe some money put away. He may still be the man everybody calls when something needs to be handled. But somewhere beneath all of that, something has gone quiet. He gets up. He does what he needs to be done. He handles his responsibilities. But the fire that once drove him does no longer feel the same. And he may not even know how to explain it, because men were rarely taught how to talk about this part of life. We were taught how to build, how to provide, how to compete, how to protect, how to accomplish, how to keep going. But very few of us were taught what to do when the identity built around all of those things began to change. I understand that more today than I did when I was younger. For more than 25 years, I have worked in law enforcement. Being a police sergeant was not simply something I did. It became part of how I understood myself. There was responsibility, there was authority, there was structure, people depending on you, problems that required decisions, a clear reason to get up and engage with the world. Then one day, that chapter ends. You retire, and people may congratulate you. They say, you made it. Now you can relax. Enjoy yourself. And there is truth in that. But there's another question underneath retirement that nobody puts on the cake. Who are you when you no longer have to be who you were? That is a much deeper question, because the uniform can come off in one day. A title can disappear in one day. But the identity underneath it may take years to understand. And law enforcement is only one example. A man may spend 30 years building a career. Then suddenly, he is no longer the person everyone comes to for the answers. Another man spends decades raising children. Then the children become adults. They build their own lives. They do not need dad in the same way anymore. Another man builds his identity around physical strength. Then the body starts changing. Another builds his identity around income. Then retirement changes that. Another builds his identity around marriage. Then the relationship changes. Another builds his identity around being needed. And eventually, life asks him a question he has been able to avoid for decades. Who are you when nobody needs you to perform? That question can shake a man, because many of us have confused our roles with our identity. Provider, husband, father, boss, coach, sergeant, businessman, leader. Those are important roles. I have carried many of them myself, but none of them fully answered the question, who are you? And I believe this is where many men quietly begin to struggle. not necessarily in some dramatic way. Sometimes it simply looks like boredom. He watches more television, drinks a little more, gets irritated a little faster, withdraws, stops trying new things, talks constantly about the old days, finds fewer things that excite him. Maybe he spends all day scrolling through his phone, or he becomes obsessed with politics, sports, work, somebody else's problem, anything that gives his mind somewhere to go. And underneath some of that behavior may be a question he has never spoken out loud. Does my life still matter? That is the crisis. Not getting older. Losing meaning while getting older. And those are two very different things. Because aging itself does not have to diminish a man. In fact, I believe something extraordinary can happen in the second half of life. Experience can become wisdom. Achievement can become service. Ambition can become meaning. And a man can begin living from something much deeper than proving himself. But that transition does not happen automatically. You can get older without becoming an elder. There's a difference. Age happens to everybody who lives long enough. Elder is something you grow into consciously. An elder begins asking different questions. A younger man may ask, how do I become successful? An elder begins asking, what did success teach me? A younger man asks, how much can I accomplish? An elder asks, what is worth accomplishing now? A younger man may ask, how do people see me? An elder begins asking, what kind of presence do I bring when I enter a room? And perhaps one of the most important questions becomes, what can I give now that only my life experience has prepared me to give? That question changes something for me. Because eventually, I began realizing that the second half of life was not asking me to recreate the first half. I did not need another uniform, another title, another identity to prove my value. I need to understand what all those years had produced in me. The experiences, the mistakes, the victories, the disappointments. The people I had loved, the things I had lost, the responsibilities I carried, the lessons I learned the hard way. Maybe none of that was wasted. Maybe life had been preparing me, not merely to accomplish more, but to embody more. That is one of the reasons I speak so much today about being centered. Because when your identity is completely attached to your role, every change in the role feels a threat to who you are. But when you know your center, roles can change without destroying you. You can retire without disappearing. Your children can grow up without your life losing purpose. Your body can change without your dignity disappearing. Your career can end without your usefulness ending. Your income can change without your worth changing. You can lose a title without losing yourself. That's freedom. And I believe many men over 50 are standing at a doorway without realizing it. Behind them is the life they built. In front of them is a life they have not yet defined. And that space feels uncomfortable. Because for the first time in decades, Life may no longer be telling you exactly what you have to do. But perhaps that is not a crisis. Perhaps it is an invitation. Maybe this is a season when you stop asking, who does everybody need me to be? And begin asking, who am I becoming now that I finally have the experience to understand myself? That is a very different way of age. You are no longer trying to become 35 again. You are not competing with the younger version of yourself. You are allowing the 55-year-old man, the 60-year-old man, the 65-year-old man, the 70-year-old man to become something the younger man could never have been, because the younger man did not have your experiences yet. He did not have your losses. He did not have your scars. He did not know what to survive. He did not know what mattered. You do. And that means your age contains something valuable. But only if you stop looking at age as evidence that life is closing and begin asking what life is opening. For me, that opening has increasingly become about service, about wisdom, about helping people discover something deeper within themselves, about becoming more present, more grounded, less reactive, less interested in proving, more interested in being. I sometimes put it this way. I live my life, now I am living my wisdom. That does not mean my life is over. It means my relationship with life has changed. I am not simply collecting experiences anymore. I am learning how to transform experience into meaning. And I believe that may be one of the greatest responsibilities of elderhood. You have lived enough life to know some things. Not everything, but some things. Things you could not have known at 25. Things you could not have understood at 35. And maybe someone behind you needs what those experiences taught you. Your children, your grandchildren, a younger man, a friend, someone in your community, someone you may never even meet face to face. Because legacy is not simply what you leave when you die. Legacy is who you lift while you are here. And that brings us back to the crisis. The danger is not that the man turns 50. The danger is that he begins believing his most meaningful years are behind him. The danger is that he mistakes a changing role for a disappearing identity. The danger is that he spends the next 20 or 30 years trying to preserve who he used to be instead of discovering who he is now capable of becoming. So if you are over 50, I want to give you 3 questions. You do not have to answer them immediately. Sit with them. Question number 1. What role have you mistaken for who I am? My career? My marriage? Being a provider? Being the strong one? Being needed? Question number 2. What has my life prepared me to understand that I could not have understood 20 years ago? There's wisdom in that answer. And question number 3. Who can benefit from the man I have become? Because those 3 questions begin moving you from identity to wisdom to service. And that may be one of the most powerful transitions a man can make. There's another thing I want you to understand. You do not have to have everything figured out. I certainly do not. Being centered does not mean having all the answers. It means becoming comfortable enough within yourself that you can live honestly inside the question. You can say, I don't know exactly what the next chapter looks like, and still know, but I know who is walking into it. There's strength in that. Maybe you are watching this at 52, maybe 58, 64, 65. Maybe you retired recently. Maybe your children just left home. Maybe your career does not mean what it used to. Maybe you accomplished many of the things you once wanted and discovered that achievement alone is not the answer, does not answer the deeper question. Do not assume something is wrong. Life may simply be asking you to move from one form to identity, then to another, from performer to presence, from achievement to meaning, from proving to embodying, from becoming successful to becoming useful in a deeper way, and perhaps from simply growing older to becoming an elder. I want to leave you with this. Your life experience is not evidence that your story is almost over. It may be the raw material for the more meaningful chapter you have ever lived. But you have to stop trying to be the man you were long enough to meet the man you are becoming. If this message speaks to you, I want you to answer something in the comments. And especially if you are a man over 50, answer this honestly. What part of your identity are you having to redefine in this season of your life? Career, fatherhood, marriage, retirement, purpose, your health, your spirituality, or simply who you are when you are no longer trying to prove yourself. Put one word or one sentence in the comments, because I believe there are other men reading those comments who need to know they are not the only ones asking these questions. And if you know a man over 50 who seems successful on the outside but may quietly be wondering what comes next, share this video with him. Subscribe to Living Enlightened Dr. G. This channel is not about teaching men how to become younger again. We are exploring something far more interesting. How do we become men our years have prepared us to be? Until next time, you are not becoming irrelevant. You are being invited to become intentional. Your role may be changing, but your usefulness is not over. Your wisdom may just now be ready to serve, and perhaps your most meaningful work is still ahead.